Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is In A Barbie World,
The podcast where we look at every Barbie movie from 1987 to the present day.
from fairy tales to literary classics.
From Mariposa to Mermaidia.
It's time to get unboxed,
Readjust your lippy.
rock the ball gown.
And let's get our Barbie on.
It is 2001 and Barbie's very first motion picture movie is coming out direct to DVD. It's a very exciting time for Mattel, in that it's a terrible time for Mattel because Bratz have come out and they're super sexy and all the kids are like, hell yeah, I got a passion for fashion. And Barbie's like, I do not have that. I am white and has always been and always will be, and very boring and chaste. And apparently all the kids were like, ew, because her sales were beginning to decline in the 1990s. So obviously what do you do when everything starts to fail? You make a movie. Because I think the idea behind it was that if they make a movie, they can sell all of the toys from the movie. Where, like, the storytelling within the narrative of the film translates over to the toys, so then all of a sudden you need all the toys to be able to interact with this level of storytelling and it's story play. I don't know what it's called, but you know how dolls work. And basically the movies are one big advertising venture for it, much like Barbie and the Rockers was, but this is different. This feels different. It's coming from a different place, and it's coming from a different style of animation as well. So yeah, they start, as you said before we started recording, in this post-Shrek world.
Well, absolutely. So 2001's when Shrek comes out as well, the movie.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm guessing this is the back end of that year. I mean, Shrek, obviously the books had been a thing for a decade before that, but
yeah,
you know, the successful sort of postmodern retelling of fairy tales and classic stories is very on point with the kids market at the moment.
And using CGI to do it as well.
Yeah, no,
instead of traditional hand-drawn animation.
I mean, let's not pretend that these films are up to Shrek or Toy Story or anything qualities of CGI animation, but the ability to do it. So I come from a world of boys' toys and Transformers. And we had Transformers Beast Wars, right, in or around this time. And that's shite compared to this. That's like, rendered on a Commodore Amiga or something, and things barely move, and it's all very polygonal and the like. This isn't bad, but it ain't sort of DreamWorks or anything like that going on, and nor should it be. Yeah,
because it's not trying to be. It's trying to sell toys, and when you think of it as that, they're very good. There's a reason I'm doing this podcast with you. It's because, from what I understand, these movies are great. And, like, they have absolutely no need to be. Other than the fact it was trying to resurrect a toy line that was slowly dying, having been around for, like, 60-odd years. But, you know, no one needed these movies to be good. They just needed to be sparkly and pretty, surely. But people put effort into them. And they thought about them.
They certainly did. I mean, as this podcast goes on, we maybe won't feel quite the same about all the films in the series. But these first few, you know, we get some big names attached to them. Tim Curry, Angelica Houston, you know, they'll turn up. They get real orchestras to do the real music. They get motion capture in to do ballet stuff. All the while, smartly making sure that Barbie, however pseudo-realistic this is, she's still a doll. You know, not quite the doll from the Toy Story movie, which I suppose are also, she exists within that world as well, of course, doesn't she?
Yeah, but they don't see that as part of her movie franchise.
No spin-offs there for us either. But it's to sell a toy, but they don't make it so she still looks like the doll. Yeah, she's still got a restricted level of movement. You know, kids can still play with the dolls while watching the movies. There's still very, I don't know, I delved into I love to look at the DVDs and the extras and things like that are on them. And, there's some very basic DVD games on there of dressing up and colouring in and things like that.
Yeah. And they've picked these sort of fairy tales, and I think what we'll see for the first few movies now, it's probably worth saying I've seen the first 3 movies of the Barbie franchise before, but I've never seen beyond that, so every assumption I'm making is based on the title and the poster. You've seen probably a fair few more than I have, I think, Stephen.
I have, although there's a whole world of them that I haven't seen. There's getting on for 40 of these now. But yes, my kids were born in 2002.
Perfect.
So and there was like 1 to 2 a year of these coming out. So they were, and quite often Christmassy movies. So they were quite a good stocking filler. So certainly the first 8, I'm pretty much I've seen. I've seen them.
Nice.
I might not have watched them beginning to end. I might have zoned in and out of them, but I've obviously had them on multiple times because that's what they are.
That's what kids do.
But I think they get a little less.
Good.
Yeah, maybe more like a traditional cartoon. Hard to say. We might find some classics.
We'll find out,
but
I guess. Yeah, who knows?
I'm very aware of sort of through to sort of the Mermaid and Pegasus ones. After that, I think it changes. And there's and they're the ones that made, apparently, the first 10 made $700 million.
Wow.
That's the first.
So it worked. That's fundamentally like Mattel's idea worked, and it's smart because we'll see the same structure and characters will be coming up. You've got Barbie, who will be voiced by Kelly Sheridan until 2010, when she'll be replaced by Diana Carina, although she returns again in 2012, I think, because there was a huge uproar, until 2015, and then she was replaced in 2015 by Erica Lindbeck, and she's been voicing Barbie ever since. But Kelly Sheridan is like classic Barbie for me. She's such a good voice actor. So there'll be Barbie. Barbie has like Shelley and Tommy, who are like the small ones, a boy and a girl. She's obviously got her Ken. There'll always be a villain. And then there's a numerous amount of animal sidekicks, and often as well a horse carriage and some sort of play set that's a castle or a tower or a lake or something that you can make into a plastic model and sell to children for $89.99.
Almost as if you could use the same molds every year to put together. There's Barbie, couple of freakishly, strangely shaped children characters, and there's a prince. And tonight, I don't know when you're listening to this, kind listener, but yes, I would say the male character this week is particularly freakish, because what I like to do when we watch the films, I like to go on eBay and have a look at the dolls and how much they are. And the Nutcracker doll, there is a male doll, which is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I never got the male dolls. I have the Sugarplum Princess doll for this one, and she is unplayed with, or like if she was played with, she was like very carefully played with. And she's very beautiful. She has like glittery dress, a corset with like lace and pink ribbon. She's got these shoes that are constantly pointed, and her hair is like curled and gorgeous, and it comes with this huge clip-on golden crown. She's beautiful. Her arms bend so you can make her into ballet poses. They really like so smart. I mean, there's a little piece that you sent me about making Barbie and the Nutcracker, and it opens with Tim Curry, and who is in the movie, as we'll go on to talk about. And he's quoted saying, Barbie and the Nutcracker, which is the first movie that we will be discussing today, is genius, because if there are two things little girls want to be in this world, it's A, Barbie, and B, a ballerina. And to quote James Acaster, never before have I been so offended by something I 100% agree with. Like, he's right, and I hate him for it.
Yeah,
I take that back. I can never hate Tim Curry, but yeah,
it's. I mean, yeah. Sometimes things are, yeah, are unfortunately true, and little 5 to 8-year-old girls do love dolls and fairies and ballet, and as a father of 2 girls, I've sat through all that. The good news
yeah.
is, everybody, is that very few of them carry on to be ballerinas. and
Yeah, Saturday morning TV becomes more of a priority.
it does. Thank heaven, because there's ballet is one of the arts I personally don't really understand. I can appreciate the craft, but there's a world of difference of watching a 5-year-old do it. And I'm looking at you,
Oh.
Shelley, and and somebody who's suffered for their art for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's yes, it's a what's the word? It's a stereotype. But sometimes some stereotypes are there because it is fundamentally true. Now, what's feeding what? Is this Barbie
Exactly.
is creating the stereotype, or is she just saying, you know what? When we say Barbie, we mean
I
Mattel.
see what I see.
Yeah,
it's like the famous story about how the Disney Princesses franchise came about, how a Disney executive went to a Disney on Ice show and saw a bunch of little girls in homemade princess costumes, and instead of going, oh, how lovely, they really love the art that we're putting out as a company, they went, fucking hell, why aren't we making these and charging them £50 for them? So they created the Disney Princess franchise, and now you can buy a hairdryer with the Disney Princesses on it.
And also another memory from this time is Toys R Us was still a thing, right?
Yes. Oh my God. R.I.P.
But
R.I.P.
a whole aisle of at this time, a whole aisle of Toys R Us will be Barbie. So maybe up until this point, it's probably
magical.
Yeah. But
I hate the stereotype, but when you turn that corner and it's hot Barbie pink and you can smell the glitter and you can it's honestly it stops your heart every time, because it was so wonderful, and you knew it was for you as well. And it I hate how they've got me, you know, but you can't help but love it. They've done a really good job of tapping into my I don't know, caveman. Do cavemen like Barbie? Probably.
Cave woman. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cave person.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but the my point was is that it's revitalized Barbie, and these movies. Let's not kid ourselves. These movies are about selling toys, and each year there's a new toy to sell, and there's a little movie to go with it. And these movies per se don't need to make money. These movies,
they're straight to DVD.
These movies just need to they probably just need the adverts on the TV for the new Barbie film, which gets the little girls excited and means that there's a £90 horse carriage that some parents are going to have to get. So even though Barbie herself isn't necessarily expensive, we've expanded it. There's other things to get, and they can role play the movie, and yeah, it's great. One thing I will say is, let's not assume the title of the film has much in reality to the classic stories which we're being reintroduced to.
Yes and no. I think that's going to be a really interesting point. Yeah. So this is Barbie and the Nutcracker. The Nutcracker being most famously a ballet composed by Tchaikovsky, based on a story by E.T.
Well, Hoffman. Tales of Hoffman. Yeah, but
that's the one.
Yeah. So those of you who know their Michael Powell films, he did Tales of Hoffman, the ballet movie, which is probably one of the other ballet movies that people know. But yeah, he wrote the libretto, and the libretto if I know, now I might be wrong on this, and hopefully we'll get lots of real angry opera and ballet fans writing and telling me I'm wrong, but I believe is that it's like a short story that goes with an opera to kind of explain it to
Yeah.
everybody. So I think the music itself, Tchaikovsky's music, didn't necessarily have a strong story as part of that music. That's just moods and feels and things like that. Whereas the libretto then puts meat on those bones. So I think it comes afterwards. So think of it like the novelization of the opera.
Of the like ballet and opera, yeah.
But yes, he's big deal. So and I seem to remember the Nutcracker's like one of the sort of the classic Christmas stories, isn't it? The fact
Yeah,
that it's a
it's
ballet
like
is by the by.
you've got
Almost.
Christmas Carol and then you got Nutcracker, and like every year you'll be able to see the Nutcracker in some form somewhere across the world. It's globally Christmassy. It like yeah, it's very famous and very beloved. And what I love about Barbie in this era is that she's going against the grain. So we think this is 2003, so we've come out of the Disney Renaissance where the Disney studio had their downtime and they've resurrected themselves using the Broadway structure, getting great lyricists and songwriters in and choosing original folktales. It's not anything that we would think Disney would do, and they go against anything that Disney has already done, which I really enjoy. Like, there's no sort of crossovers yet between the two. So Barbie really gets to come into her own as a storyteller with the source material that she chooses. And I think the Nutcracker's a really brilliant option. And I love that because they easily could have done this without ballet. But they chose to get the orchestra to play the music and a choreographer to come in and do motion capture of ballet dancing. And it's emotional. It's really great. Like, it's really fun little segments. Like, sure, the animation is a little bit clunky, but it's still, you're watching people do professional ballet moves to Tchaikovsky's famous Nutcracker score without any of the problematic racism. So, like, it's really fun.
Oh, yes. So yeah, I mean, I was going to mention that. Yeah, the Nutcracker itself has a history of, if you're Chinese or Arabic, there's some things here which yeah, but it's more than problematic, is it? It's stereotypical racism.
It's very, yeah. And in the first Fantasia, Disney's Fantasia from the 40s, they do the Nutcracker suite, and at one point they have like mushrooms that look like stereotypical sort of Chinese, ancient sort of Chinese. Like, it's just very like, oh, stop doing that. And within the ballet as well, they'll often not get people from those realms or cultures and instead just sort of like black people up, or I guess yellow face you could call it. It's just awful. Like, even today there's problems with that on stage, but Barbie avoids that. Barbie's like, not going there, not even going to address it, not a thing.
No, because this is a completely different story that happens to involve a Nutcracker set at Christmas. I don't want us to rush into talking into the film because
no, let's do it.
So to me, this is Barbie's inception, because we have layers upon layers of story here. We have you know where I'm coming from, right? We have this opening. We have this opening framework which appears in the first few of the films, actually, where Barbie is basically babysitting Shelley. Is Shelley her little sister? Or are they just...
Have I got that right? Is it Shelley or is it Kelly?
Oh, I can't remember now.
It might be Kelly. There is a Shelley, I think. But I think this
it is Kelly. It is Kelly. Yes, this is Kelly. They look the same. One of these freaky...
Apologies, Shelley.
One of these freaky child Barbie things with a big head that... Yeah, that's not quite as bad as a... Monster High, but or Brat. I think they both look the same. I think
they look exactly the same.
I think they do.
Barbie Kelly. So Kelly Roberts is the younger sister of Barbie, Skipper, and Stacy. Remember, there are 4 sisters. Oh wait, and the older sister of Chrissy. So there's one, two, three, four, five siblings, five Barbie siblings. Barbie, Skipper, Stacy, Kelly, and Chrissy. Kelly was introduced in 1995, and she was retired in 2010. R.I.P. Kelly, replaced by Chelsea. So that'll be something to look out for. Also known as Shelley in certain countries. So I wonder if the UK have her as Shelley. Why change?
What a bizarre... It's not as if it's like a regional... It's not like Madison, because you don't come across many Madisons in the UK. But yeah, I think... Yeah, what a weird... I thought it was Shelley. Right, okay. Anyway, Barbie and one of her younger sisters are doing something. In this episode, this film, they're doing some ballet stuff, and Shelley Kelly is being a bit of a brat. Saying, I don't know how to do it. And
she's not being a brat. She's just struggling to get the steps.
It's so hard. There's only 6 to learn. Get on with it, girl. Anyway, Barbie then decides to tell a story to her little sister, which is going to give a moral, and she goes and tells a story of Clara, played by Barbie, who lives with her grandfather, and her bratty little brother, which
Tommy,
who's a little git,
who again though isn't in the lineup.
Is he not in the doll lineup?
The Barbie siblings.
Yeah.
Hang on. Who is hang on.
Does he only exist in this film?
No, because he exists in the next film as well. Here we go. Oh. Tommy is Ken's younger brother. But in this particular,
but he's playing. He's playing the role. Because remember, this is Inception. So remember...
Yes.
We're now in a story within our framework of our story, but don't worry, because in a minute we're going to be in another story inside this story. This is... Christopher Nolan must have looked at this and thought, I'm having this. All we're missing is a spinning top, and this is a film for 5 to 8-year-old girls, right?
Yeah.
There is some
complicated
stuff going on. And that was my note that I wrote on this. I said this is more complicated than Inception. If I put, it's quite simple to understand. Really, it's all very linear and it like an onion, yeah. It's just layers. But actually, if you're a kid, you're asking a lot of a kid to understand that Barbie is also that. And let's not forget, she's also the Barbie we've got in our hands that we're playing with when we're watching this. So that's a 4th level. So that Barbie is this Barbie, is this Clara, is that Clara. Whoa!
Blew my mind.
And don't worry, because when we actually get to the world of the Nutcracker, there's even more freaky shit going down. So this is...
Well, I mean, this movie opens with... A lot of the early ones have lovely opening credits scenes where they play music from the film, which in this case is the Nutcracker suite itself, to animation that may become relevant later on. The Nutcracker starts off hopefully where they don't intend to continue, because it's terrifying, it's horrible, it's really ghastly. They've got Shelley Kelly fairies that are horribly animated, cleaning off frosted glass and peering directly down into the camera lens while it's dun 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 dun, and you're like, no, this is scary. She's from my nightmares.
They are. Those sort of child fairy things are creepy, and get even creepier as the film goes on. So it's not a great start, is it?
But what's really great is that it sort of starts out like the original Nutcracker, from what I understand, whereby it's Christmas time and Drosselmeyer is a local toy maker, I think, who's also sometimes a wizard, and he gives Clara the Nutcracker. But in here, she's a really cool aunt who goes travelling and is magic and really cool.
I'm struggling. Yeah, so it's going to be Christmas. Clara lives with her grandfather, who's Drosselmeyer now, and her bratty younger brother, and then an aunt turns up.
Is it her grandfather or is it her uncle?
Well, in the Wikipedia says grandfather.
Grandfather.
And that might make more sense, because I thought it was uncle as well.
Because
But
then he'd be related to Elizabeth, the aunt.
I couldn't place the family tree together. I was
No.
struggling to think, obviously they're not going to talk about dead parents and stuff like that, which I'm sure has gone on here. But
Yeah.
she refers to the grandfather. So Elizabeth refers to the grandfather as uncle. That's right. And I thought, well, who's related to who? How is
Yeah.
Elizabeth related um to Barbie, to Clara? I couldn't
It's her
untangle
aunt,
it.
so it must be her mother's sister or her father's sister.
But
So if we
why
say
would
that,
Drosselmeyer be the uncle of Elizabeth? I think he should be her cousin. I don't know.
I don't know.
It was
No, surely
overly.
her dad.
But yes, unless it was only by marriage.
So if
It
Drosselmeyer had, let's say, Elizabeth and then like another child, and that other child gave birth to
Clara and Tommy.
Clara, so then she's Aunt Elizabeth and he's grandfather Drosselmeyer. They're both Drosselmeyer.
But he should be the father of Elizabeth, and she doesn't call him dad. She calls him uncle.
Oh my god.
This is so. But let's not worry too much about that, because there's levels of sadness in this story. Like, where are all the missing relatives? And there's a lot missing. That's not there. And it's Christmas, and Tommy's only young. But that might explain away some of his bratish behaviour. He's probably just acting out, isn't he? Due to the terrible accident which befell both his parents.
Yeah. But I love Aunt Elizabeth. I'm not sure. I mean, she says I'm not sure. Just Googling it now. I don't think there was. I don't think there was a doll of Aunt Elizabeth.
Well, she's a very progressive young lady for the time.
She's awesome. I want a doll of Aunt Elizabeth Drosselmeyer, but I don't seem to be able to have. What the fuck, Barbie?
That does seem to be a missing one, because she's a pretty cool character. Because she's about. So this is set in, I don't know. Shall I call them? I don't know when this era is. Like, so I don't know. I guess it's meant to be early 19th century, something like that. Yeah,
like Victorian era-ish.
She's out there travelling around China, and doing all kinds of things which Drosselmeyer really doesn't approve of. This is the kind of progressive character that girls should be looking up to.
Absolutely, and I think it's really cool that they made her a woman, because it instantly passes the Bechdel test. Like, instantly. Because they talk about, like, going to China or whatever. Yeah, you can't get an Aunt Elizabeth Drosselmeyer doll. What the actual shit, Barbie? I am so disappointed in you. Because she's a really fun character. She comes in, she's worldly, she's great. You have the classic grandfather going like, oh, women learning, don't listen to her, Clara. And it's like, shut up, man. Go away. And she gives her the Nutcracker doll, which I always thought is like a really shit present, because I didn't eat nuts until I was like in my 20s, and Clara's meant to be like 14. Here we can assume she's more like 16. Either way, a Nutcracker, it's not really like a toy, it's like an ornament at best.
And it doesn't even look very efficient at cracking nuts, frankly.
No.
They'd be very small nuts that Cracker would be able to nut.
Yeah. So it's just a bit of a shit toy. And obviously I think the wider thing is that I've given you a cursed prince, and you have to go on an adventure to save him. I think that's what the Nutcracker's about.
It is.
I
think.
But yeah, just on the surface, it's like, wow, thanks, Aunt Elizabeth. Fucking didn't find any dresses or fucking, I don't know, journals when you were out there. Just fucking Nutcracker,
bits of jade, something like that. Yeah. Something nice. It's just like a Nutcracker done up in the, I don't know, in sort of some kind of pseudo-British army outfit.
Yeah,
Cause more on this later. Because this film exists in a very strange place in the world, in history. But yes, we'll get to that. But yeah, what does she give Tommy? She gives Tommy
little soldiers, a little Major Mint, and a Captain Candy.
That's right. Yes, of course, which obviously feeds into later. So you know he's got boys' toys. Barbie's just too old for toys. She's going to have a Nutcracker.
So you can have a kitchen appliance dressed up as an ornament.
Yeah.
For you. So she falls asleep in the arms of the Nutcracker, which is a bit strange again because it's for cracking nuts.
Hang on,
it's
you've
not
forgotten.
like a cuddly.
Tommy the Brat
sorry.
breaks the Nutcracker.
Of course he does.
This is important. That's Hootie.
To the plot.
To the plot, yes. So yes, because he's a little brat, he goes, "I want the Nutcracker," because obviously having soldiers isn't enough, and he breaks the arm off. But it's okay because Barbie fixes it. Or Clara fixes it.
Clara puts it in a sling. She puts a sling on the old Nutcracker, being like, "That'll do."
That's how to fix wooden toys.
And if we assume that he's a cursed prince and he can feel everything despite being a wooden toy, having his arm break off must have been excruciatingly painful. So that's quite dark. Yes. And then everyone just sort of chills out and goes. Because then Clara falls asleep. And then that's when the second inception starts, because the owl on the top of the clock, who has the voice of her aunt, is like, "Hoo-hoo! Adventure awaits!" or something. Like, she's like, "Call to adventure, Clara!" Because a little mouse hole in the distance has started, like, glowing green. And if you're gonna do a thing for the first time to try and resurrect a brand, if you're gonna make it animated, even if you're not, basically what I'm saying is if you want anything to be good, you get Tim Curry. And they got Tim Curry. And therefore it's good. Because he is the Mouse King. And he is fabulous.
He certainly... He's being everything Tim Curry needs to be. There's some scenery to be chewed up.
Oh, yeah. Nom nom nom.
And you won't have heard of anybody else in this movie, but you will know it. The whole budget went on Mr. Curry. And he's perfect. Because
he's so perfect.
He is a pantomime villain writ large, isn't he?
Yeah. Perfectly so. He's got a little sidekick called Pim the Bat, who's played by Peter Kalamis, who is forgettable, I'll say, because Tim Curry shines so much that I don't think I have any notes about the bat, other than the bat is everywhere.
Well, yeah, I've got some issues with the whole bat in the story, how he becomes the Mouse King's right-hand man very fucking quickly and gains his trust very quickly. But I guess that leads to more Tim Curry. Is not a nice Mouse King, is he?
No, not a nice Mouse King at all. And I think, again, this follows the ballet where the mice come out. I always thought they were rats, but I digress. The mice come out and they, like, start a fight with the Nutcracker. And Clara's like, "What? I must be dreaming," because she's very chill about it. She wakes up and she sees this battle ensuing between mice and Nutcracker and toys in general. And she's like, "Gosh, what a wonderful dream." And then the Mouse King shrinks her because he has this awesome weapon that can, like, transform into anything he wants. And it's magic. And it's really cool. I
mean, it is the ultimate weapon.
It really is.
It does anything he needs it to do.
It's crazy good. And just really fun for storytelling, because obviously it's, it can become a chainsaw, and it can become an axe, and it can become a rope, and
it can turn everybody into a statue that it wants to,
yeah.
And it can change his size whenever he wants it to, and yeah.
It's brilliant, and like obviously there'll be people in the comments pernicketying like, "Oh, why didn't he do this at this point then?" And it's like, because shut up, that's why. The script didn't tell him to. Leave him alone. It's Tim Curry. But he's really cool, and yeah, some shit happens for quite a long time, and then she goes through the mouse hole, doesn't she?
Well,
with the
well, it's all a bit weird, right? Because what happens now is Tim Curry and his mice gang get away, and the manic depressive that is the Nutcracker and Clara start to bond, and then the owl comes down. Because Clara's stuck at a tiny size now, the owl turns up again and goes, "Twit twoo, you're going to have to go." and find someone called the Sugarplum Princess, who's the only person who can make you full size again. Convenient. That's the owl in on the top of this particular grandfather clock. Knew that. And
Yeah.
here's a magic locket that will
Oh,
make you
yeah.
come back here when you're ready. None of this makes any sense at all, because there's another bit that doesn't make
No.
any sense. As we'll find out later, the Mouse King doesn't know anything about the Nutcracker bloke at all.
No.
So why was he chasing him into this living room and having a full-on fight with him? Because later on, he kind of makes out he doesn't know who it is and why it's so important. But he was important enough for him to break into the human world and fight
I
him.
think he knows who the Nutcracker is because I understood that he was the reason the Nutcracker exists. He doesn't know who the Sugarplum Fairy is. And what we forgot to mention, God, I didn't realise how confusing this movie was. At the very beginning, Clara has put a decoration that is the last remaining thing from her parents on the tree, and it's a little like China Sugarplum Fairy, which has a locket, a removable locket on it, but it's a Christmas decoration, but it looks like the Sugarplum Fairy who I'm holding in my hand to play with. So Clara is a girl whose parents are dead, who left her a Christmas ornament that she puts on the tree. When she's shrunk by the Mouse King, the owl from the top of the clock comes to life, takes the locket off the Christmas ornament and gives it to the shrunk Clara, telling her to go and find the Sugarplum Fairy, making no reference to the fact that the Christmas tree ornament is the Sugarplum Fairy. And once you've done that, she'll get you to your normal size, and then you can use the locket to return. She doesn't tell her how.
No,
why,
it's all.
just
and
that.
she's not the Sugarplum Fairy. She's the Sugarplum Princess.
Sorry.
No, but then this is very
Princess.
important because in the Nutcracker, it is the Sugarplum Fairy, right? That's the famous song from the ballet. Is well, not song, tune. Is the dance of the Sugarplum Fairy, and they're at great lengths to constantly call her the Sugarplum Princess in this.
Princess.
Now, a princess actually comes with some other requirements other than just being sugar plummy, i.e. to be related to some kind of royalty, which doesn't pan out. By the way, if anyone can't guess who the Nutcracker and who the Sugarplum Princess is, even within the first 10 minutes of the film, you need to get out more and read more.
No, this is the thing though. I'd even seen this movie before, and I spent the whole movie being like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet the Sugarplum Princess. It's going to be like meeting Glinda at the end of the Wizard of Oz. It's going to be so good. And then when Ken goes, Barbie, Clara, you are the Sugarplum Princess, I was like, fuck, what?
Oh, mate.
What a twist! I fell for it.
Oh,
I let
mate.
myself fall for it, and it was so.
The 8-year-old girl in you was fully realised here, wasn't it? Because this is.
And I thought I was being so smart because there's a whole thing about how the Nutcracker is Prince Eric, who's like the missing prince, and everyone's constantly talking about the missing prince, and the Nutcracker's constantly like loosening his collar and being like, "Oh yeah, no, that guy sucks," and I'm like, "I see you, movie.
Oh no!
I see you."
Barbie sees through that in about 20 seconds.
Yeah, she's like, "You're Prince Eric, aren't you?" And he's like, "What?"
And again, I think
where'd you get that idea?
I think we'll see this as a theme. Some of the other films that the character Barbie's playing takes no shit with mystery. She says, "You're the fucking prince."
Nancy Drew, she's like fucking Velma. She's over it. She's like, and Prince Eric all along was the Nutcracker.
And I would have got away with it too, all of you pesky dolls.
Just pesky fucking princesses. But yeah, no, I did not see it coming.
So what we've got is, for most of us, this is a pointless quest, but a quest it is thereof, where the Nutcracker and his occasionally damaged arm and Clara visits this new world, which is fascinatingly a mix of CGI and traditional painted backgrounds. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did. I was freaked out. I was like, where are you? Are you okay? Like, that doesn't look right. Like, it looks wrong. It looks really it's like if in the middle of Shrek, they'd had a 2D portrait of something, and you know the characters would have made reference to it in some meta way. But here, they're just like, what a beautiful town. It's so pretty. I can see the castle in the distance. Look. And I'm like, I'm looking and I don't like what I see. Why did you make this decision? Was it budget cuts? Like, surely this was more expensive. I don't know. It just
It's
and it was.
really
I
weird
assume it was to
and
make it
inconsistent.
distinct. Yeah, I thought it was to make it look more magical, like different. You know, like in Van Helsing, when spoilers for 2004's Van Helsing, when they go through the they complete the map and then they go through the mirror into the other land and it's like really snowy or whatever on the other side to try and get the distinction between the two places. I thought it was a bit like that. It did remind me of Van Helsing, to be fair.
I think you're probably right. That's exactly why it's there.
I wonder if Van Helsing got their idea from Barbie and the Nutcracker.
Well, obviously we've worked out Christopher Nolan's been scribbling down notes.
Everyone gets their ideas from Barbie. We'll see that more in the next episode. I got a whole thing to say about the next episode. But yeah, to stay here, so we're in this weird land of a mixture of animation, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, like, I know I'm doing this podcast because I really enjoy the Barbie movies, but like, I sort of watched them back to back, the first two, and this one's not great in comparison to the second one. I
feel the same way. I don't think I'd seen this one before. So I think we probably started watching them with Rapunzel. Because this is a balderized version of the story with an overly complex narrative that's going to give us some really troublesome moments when we meet a couple of other characters in a minute. Because we did talk about avoiding the Arabic and Chinese stuff. We're gonna go knee deep into the British colonial history of India in a minute.
Oh my god, I hadn't even made that fucking... I'm an idiot. I really was watching this movie like I was 7. And I was like, how wonderful.
Yeah. Well, the Nutcracker himself obviously is a British soldier from that era. And then he's gonna meet a castaway. It's got a couple of cast-offs from the film Zulu and a really uncomfortable Indian character as well. But yeah,
I don't know. I can't speak for them because I'm not who they're trying to represent. I never had a problem with Captain Candy. I thought he was a great piece of representation and I really loved him as a character. I always found him very sensible and interesting, and I loved his outfits.
This isn't from a great place in British history.
Obviously.
And obviously his little subservient member of the Punjab Rangers or whatever he was, who's Prince Eric's best mate. But yeah, just really, really weird to firmly set this in a part of British history
era,
within a
fantasy.
Within another fantasy context, which I don't think has anything to do with the original Nutcracker. I could be wrong.
No,
I could be wrong, but weird. But I guess you that just went past you because you're obviously not as ashamed of being British as I am.
I'm usually so hot on this kind of thing, but because I remember it from the first time I watched this movie, I remember being so pleased. I think I spent the movie holding my breath, and when Captain Candy didn't do anything particularly awful or racist,
which is true, yes,
I was like, oh, thank God, how brilliant, instead of being like taking a step back and seeing that he is essentially I always thought he was second in command to Major Mint, who is very sort of, I am the very model of a modern Major General sort of guy. But when you're setting it in the Victorian Nutcracker, where the reigning monarch is Empress of India, and you've got this Indian character, shall we say, serving under a British colonialist wearing major, all of a sudden I've got alarm bells and I'm not sorry
to ruin it for you, but it just seems like they went a long way to clear the story out of some troublesome detritus.
And I wonder if they even, not to like shit on America, but like, did they know what they were doing?
No, they probably don't. So that is where I was going next. Is we always, at all these films, we've got to remember that Mattel is very much an American company, one of the most American companies. They're like as American as Coca-Cola, aren't they, and McDonald's. And so, and Disney can be accused of this sometimes, a bit of cultural appropriation without understanding. Like, don't get me on about the new Mulan movie, because that's the classic example of Disney not understanding the culture they were appropriating. And a bit of this here is, oh, this is just, look at this lovely. What's the
Look
little,
at them getting on.
yeah, and to be fair, the major, he teeters on the edge of a bit of sexism, but he doesn't
Yeah.
really fight it, does he? He doesn't. These are fairly.
He's not meant to be the villain. He's meant to be
No.
the sort of comic relief.
He is.
They're a sort of bizarre duo, but you're right. It's absolutely strange, and I wonder if they were trying to relate it closer to the ballet somehow, or if they just glanced at a history book and saw Punjabi soldiers alongside British colonial soldiers and were like, amazing, and then like did that without reading the text of like, hey, remember when we fucking trashed their country and colonized them?
Yeah, it was just a bit weird that this world that they've gone into is some kind of sugar caned version of India. Yeah, very weird. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I don't want to push it too hard.
There's no other diverse. He's the only diverse character. He's the only non-white character. Is Captain Candy, and
except for the giant walking toy man with the giant head.
Who's he?
Well, the Nutcracker.
Oh, he's white.
Is he? Well, he is.
Yeah.
Well, he's
10.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet, do we?
Sorry,
don't know.
spoilers.
Only Barbie knows this. No.
Only Barbie's figured out his looks to camera like he's Martin Freeman in The Office. He's like, whoa. Hope they don't realise it's me.
Oh, he was a bad sort, wasn't he?
Because the sort of running narrative is that the prince was sent away to prove himself when his dad died, which I think is pretty mean, like let him mourn. And in his place, the Mouse King, because you have mice as advisors in this land, sort of took up rule in a Jafar type of way and then became power hungry and stayed in that role and turned the prince into a nutcracker, which is very... Well, I was going to say unimaginative, but it's quite imaginative. It's not the first thing I would go to.
And I'm a bit confused about the whole mouse as advisor thing as well. So
why is the mouse an
But
advisor?
is he a mouse, or is he a man-sized mouse? Because his size changes in the denouement, but that might be down to the magic. Because even in this magical world of icing sugared India that we have here, I don't think a mouse has ever been anyone. No, even Caligula chose a horse, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, is he meant to be a man-sized mouse, or is he a literal mouse? I don't know.
I
don't
know
my head
because no one else in this land is an animal except the horse that we come across,
who
is non-speaking and just a horse. So how did a mouse become the advisor to the monarchy, so much so that they could literally take over the throne and no one would really have anything bad to say about it? Because they're all shitting on Eric. They're like, oh, the prince fucked off and we hate him.
Yeah, no. Eric's dad employed a fucking mouse.
Employed a mouse, and everyone was cool with that.
It's the son's fault. It's the son's fault if it's not his dad for him. It's like we don't blame one of Boris Johnson's children for employing Dominic Cousins, do we?
Literally. Oh my god, it's so weird. But anyway, that's this world's problems. Nothing to do with me. I've just found my notes. I literally wrote, "What a great twist! Clara is the Sugarplum Princess." Oh my god. Oh, I was so invested. But yes, they meet some random villagers. There's only 4 people that live in this town, and they all live in a tree house. And some shit happens. It's really, really bland. It's quite bland. Clara doesn't change
it's a gingerbread
outfits much.
village because it's Christmas. But yeah, there's 4 people there, and one of them's a horse called Marzipan, because that's what you call a horse.
I think it's a brilliant name for a horse, and she's purple, and you can buy her, and you can brush her hair
And of course, we forgot that the land is called Parthenia, which is, again, just doesn't sound right to me. But
No, that's weird.
I don't know, just
Sounds
very
kind of
strange.
Greek.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, so
Narnia.
clearly very little thought came into this. Um, and Barbie's not British, I should add. Everyone else is, but Barbie's still like, hey, what's going on? We're here in England. Which is
Yeah.
one of my favourite things.
She is. It is bizarrely. I don't even think the Nutcracker. So the Nutcracker was written by, like you say, Tchaikovsky, who was Russian, right?
Yeah.
So you would expect that. Oh no, I've just remembered the one thing about the one nod to its Russian ancestry. We'll get there at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I've just remembered.
One thing I will say, that as a role model, Clara/Barbie is really good in this. She's got personality, she's down to earth, she has opinions and leadership skills, she reacts to things, she's brave. She has flaws in that she has like doubts, but she's also really clever and resourceful. And like genuinely she's a really great character to want to emulate, and she's giving off some really great vibes for small children. So I think they really, where it mattered in terms of who they were marketing this to, which is there are lots of people out there, Mattel, don't just go for white little girls, because you could have really hit the nail on the head and gone more global with this, but you don't think about that. So I think she's a really great character. But yeah, in terms of like the problematic aspects to it, I'm not qualified at all to talk about them, but I can see that they're there. And I'd be really interested to know, for people who they really do affect, how you feel about it. Is Captain Candy good? Or is it like, oh my goodness, no? Let us know.
Yeah,
Email us.
At least he's not a dick. I don't have so much a problem with the characters themselves. I think all the characters, they are what they are. My issue is this is just a really weird way to display a fantasy world by basing it
using
on colonial area India. Yeah, but it's all right because what wasn't in colonial era India were giant, scary rock monsters.
So scary!
And I have to say, that was a pretty scary monster.
That was really scary.
Even though he couldn't actually, his bits weren't joined up together. But yeah, the Mouse King, now with his own new advisor of Pim the Bat. Is it Pim? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Pim.
Decides they hear about the Nutcracker and his gang are off to find this Sugarplum Princess that he knows nothing about. So he'll send a giant rock creature after them, and
to, I assume, fucking kill them, which is pretty dark.
Well, I think that was his original plan.
He's like, bring me kill the Nutcracker, or bring me the Nutcracker and kill everyone else. Either way, it's like, dude.
And this thing's like 60 feet tall. It's made of... Well, it's not really rock, is it? It's made of granite or something. It's
like a pillar that was holding up the hall. But it's huge, and it like has scary noises and... Yeah,
it's like
I think
if
if I
one
was
of
a
the
small
Easter
child...
It's like one of the Easter Island heads sort of got up out of the ground and started...
Yeah.
It doesn't belong in this. It doesn't belong in this film. I have to say that. It looks like it's from another film altogether. Really weird design and scary and yeah, but yeah, he's going to chase them across wherever they're going to look for this Sugarplum Princess character.
Yeah. God, I can't remember what happens now, but they somehow manage to get to the car. Oh, they get captured.
Well, Clara. No. So what happens is the rock monster chases them, but luckily the snow fairies, your mates from the beginning of the film,
who
can't actually talk and go,
who are terrifying.
They do something and make the rock monster fall beneath the ice. I forgot one of the. It was Barbie, hasn't it? Who comes up with the general idea of cracking the ice, isn't it? Or is it? No, it's
Yes.
the Nutcracker, isn't it?
Oh,
Because he
yeah,
nearly sacrifices himself over it. They get away, and then they find this castle at the end of their quest. I don't ever really know what they were looking for, but they find it. And this is the best bit of the film for me, because it's a trap, as Admiral Akbar would say. It's genius, because it's not really a castle. It's a cardboard cutout with a cage in the middle, and Pym sorted this out himself and trapped them all like mice. If you see what we're doing here, in this amazingly executed fake castle, which just so happened to set up at the end of the journey, which they didn't know what they were doing and looking for. But forget about the practicalities of that. This is marvellous. And it's the cleverest thing that happens in the film.
It's very cool. It's a real twist. Like, you think they found the castle of the Sugarplum Princess, and instead it's a trap. It's really fun, the way they, like, bump into the cardboard background, thinking they're about to go up some stairs. And then all of a sudden, there's like a million bats that are helping or whatever they are, and they're like, wah! And you're like, oh shit! Like, and they capture all three guys, so it's just Clara who's left by herself.
Because they don't know who she is. They don't know.
They're like,
catch her, I suppose.
She'll die. There's no way off this island. She'll die. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there was a way onto it, but there's no way off. That's the thing we've got to remember. So she's stuck there with a horse, isn't she?
Yes.
Marzipan. But don't worry too much about Marzipan, because she's going to be left behind.
Fuck you, Marzipan.
She's going to be left to die. Off to the virtual knacker's yard with you, Marzipan. Because after a moment of depression from Barbie, what am I going to do?
She gives up. She literally gives up. She's like, well, guess there's nothing I can do. And it's like, all right, Clara. Like, and there needs to be like a lost all hope moment, but it comes so quickly and so matter-of-factly with her. Like, it's kind of enjoyable the way she touches the locket, and she's like, I mean, I could just go back home right now. I've probably got some doll's clothes that fit me. I can 100% do that. Like, what's stopping me? And then she's like, I guess I should try and save them, like, while I'm here. Oh, how am I going to get off this island? But, like, for a second there, she's very much, like, totally chill with her life as, like, a tiny doll-sized person forever now.
Well, she doesn't even need to go back home, does she? Because she's normal size to these people. Why would you even want to leave?
Yeah.
But basically she's going to die alone and unloved and tiny on this little island. She's going to have to eat Marzipan at some stage. the dark thoughts that are going through Barbie's head, just for a microsecond. But it's okay, because this is a Barbie film and no crisis lasts more than 13 to 14 seconds. and this existential crisis is ended very quickly when your mates, those fairies you've been picking on all film.
Scary, so scary.
Come and
so
save
ugly.
the day. They come and save the day by picking her up.
Get in a swing, Bobby! Are you sure you can carry me? I mean, I know I'm like a size 0, but I still have weight, and you are like minuscule. You're like mosquitoes. Like, are you sure you can carry me across the ocean?
They are strong little
Get
flyers.
in, Barbie!
So they get like a piece of cloth and basically fashion a swing, and about a number of them fly her. And remember that this has been a quest. So it's taken them several days, one assumes, to get to the fake castle.
Yeah.
But the little fairy characters, snow fairies, who actually had got Barbie in this position in the first place.
Yes.
By freezing the sea and allowing Marzipan to get them into the ice lake anyway. So they must be feeling guilty, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, shit, we didn't realise that, like, it's meant to be a twist as to who the Sugarplum Princess is, and we thought genuinely there was a castle over there, and I know we'd never seen it before because we live here, but we just got really excited, I guess. You can't blame us, Barbie.
No,
like, get in the swing. We'll help you now.
We're
like the proverbial eagles of this Middle-earth quest.
They are absolutely like the eagles of the Middle-earth quest. Yeah, so everyone now gets back to the castle. Right,
Yes.
we've finished exploring Sugarland, India.
The weird realm of
Yeah, and we're in a castle
problematic
with
sugar.
yeah, and Barbie, which she does quite a lot in these films, has a little explore around. She's quite
She's
the
very brave.
she is she loves a and we'll talk about this in the next episode, I'm sure, but she does love going down a mysterious
Tunnel.
tunnel.
She's not put off. She's just like, whatever. She comes face to face with two huge guards, and she's instantly like, oh, thank God you're here. The Mouse King needed you in the hall. If you don't believe me, maybe I should go and tell him that you weren't gonna... Like, that old chestnut, but to do it quickly...
Oh,
you're
mate,
like,
she
well
pulls
done,
it
Barbie.
off. She pulls it off like somebody in a 1980s buddy comedy would.
Yeah.
You know, like the one played by Eddie Murphy or Jim Belushi. He would have done that.
Did you guys hear that?
And she
you
does
better
it
go
without
check it out.
batting an eyelid, and she gets to the place where they're holding the three. Oh, by the way, Mouse King's not fucking around. He's gonna burn them to death.
Yeah, he's like building a bonfire in the front courtyard, and he's
Everyone
like,
else,
gonna fry me a nutcracker.
He's turned to stone. He's turned into a nutcracker.
He's turned into bookends.
Yeah, oh yeah, two characters get turned into bookends. You know,
that was really fun.
None of this transmutification stuff. I'm gonna burn the fuckers to death in a real Witchfinder General kind of way.
Light. Yeah. Move aside, Vincent Price. Tim Curry's here, and he's a mouse.
So what he does is he only hides them in a dungeon in his castle. But he's also going to hide them behind some kind of invisibility wall.
Well, they're in like the Phantom Zone or whatever that thing.
They are like it is like the Phantom Zone. Yeah, Barbie can sense they're there, but she can neither hear nor see them
until they can see and hear her.
Until she can, because the drama never lasts more than 4.5 seconds. Because Barbie then just senses they're there, and that's enough.
It's true love, because Ken puts his hands on the glass, and then Barbie puts her hand out, and they're touching hands, and she's
and they say, "You complete me," and all that shit. Yeah.
Feel my future boyfriend's around here.
Yeah.
So she just on a whim picks up something heavy from the door and just smashes it to pieces. It could have been anything. I'd have been like, well, they clearly be they must be here, but I don't even know where to begin as to how I'm gonna start figuring out how and where they're trapped. They could have been turned into ants and I could have stepped on them. They could be in a different zone where I might need a magic spell. They could have taken a potion that turned them invisible, in which case I'm gonna need something else. She's just like, I think they're behind a frozen wall, so I'm just gonna smash in the middle of the room and hope that something happens. And good for Clara. She was right. They're free. So well done, you. Now go stop that burning.
Yeah, well, she's kind of stopped it by freeing them. They
rush to the courtyard and they're like, Mouse King!
Yeah.
Stop it! Which always works. And Tim Curry's like, no.
Well, that sounded like Tim Curry then. That's yeah, because he's got the magic. Remember, he's got the staff of all power.
Yes.
And I guess at this point we can just say the fight breaks out.
Yeah, there's a fight.
Giant mouse, small mouse, cardboard box. The whole thing goes on.
It's fun. It's a fun little, and there's the constant worry of the fire that might be set alight, and the wood person might be thrown onto it at any point. There are stakes, and Clara does some really good throwing herself in front of people to save them thing. There's a fun little Medusa bit where the spell gets rebounded on the Mouse King and he falls into a drain, which is really great. It's a really great fight. It's wrapped up quite nicely. It's a shame.
I don't think we're going to have many more fights in this film series, so we should just enjoy them now.
Yeah, we should take what we can get.
Because it's with burning people and
They were really just experimenting with like a bunch of ideas in this movie before they got a bit more sticking to a structure, I think. And, we should appreciate it for that. Like, sure, it's a little bit messy, but there are some really great moments. One of my favourite moments is coming up, and I'm not talking about the very next moment, which is the twist.
Such as it is. Although, Hitchcockian in its reveal for yourself.
I can't even be ashamed. I've just got to own this. I didn't see it coming, and I've seen this movie before, and I have the doll of the Nutcracker Princess, so I was like, when's the fucking princess gonna show up? Thinking she was gonna appear in a bubble like Glinda and be like, you could go back at any point, Clara, or whatever. But, to their credit, they don't do that because they easily could have done. It's my basic storytelling that was implementing that, which is why I think I was like, oh, yeah, it makes better sense for the princess to have been the woman we've spent the entire movie with rather than like a deus ex machina at the end. So yeah, Barbie, Clara, for whatever fucking reason,
is the
Sugarplum Princess.
Although,
and she has like, it is never, she didn't know it. No one else knew it. It's never explained. Her parents don't show up and are like, we are the Sugarplum King and Queen. You're our daughter. We live in this realm, and that's why we're not in Victorian England. You, I don't know, ran away as a kid and took your brother with you, who was clearly born like 12 years after you. I don't know. It's never explained. Like, I don't know why she's the Sugarplum Princess, which is why I didn't see it coming.
Neither her princessness nor her sugarplumness is explained at all. But she is. But don't worry, they fixed that in the next film. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a look at that long hard look at the script and thought, we can fix that. Spoiler to the next episode. But yeah, and this means that Eric is restored because she kisses him, and she got round. She could have done that a while ago, couldn't she? With her little fucking wood fetish thing going on.
It's and they dance, they do some ballet, and it's really lovely. They have proper New York City ballet dancers doing motion capture, and it's genuinely really fun.
I'm a bit disappointed. I thought there'd be more ballet in it rather than this little recital at the end.
Yeah,
because it's really weird. Like, the film's over, the crisis is done with, and what we get then is a selection of ballet from the Sublime. Well, quite well done. Let's put it that way, with Clara and Eric, and the hilarious with the Major
and Captain Candy doing like the trailer music for Muppet Christmas Carol. You know, the one where it's like
the Muppets.
But they're doing
like Cossack dancing. Let's just say it. So for some reason, and Cossack dancing is part of the Nutcracker, right? That's probably the people of my age will remember variety shows at Christmas time where someone would come on to, I don't know, something starring Bruce Forsyth, and then Cossack dancers would come on to that music, and that'd be the only time we ever saw Cossack dancers if you were less than middle class. But these are member of the British military, and and I don't know what's going on there. Really weird, and out of context. But it's like, well, we paid all for this motion capture. We better use it.
I think I just didn't like how they fell over each other at the end.
No, that was
to make it like into a comedy moment. I was like, oh, get up, both of you. You're a disgrace. So that was a shame. And then, like, genuinely, because I think this is really, really cool, and you don't really see it, I assume, in other Barbie movies because there's no need for it. But Clara and Eric have found each other. They're in love because they've spent like a whole day with each other. And to give Barbie credit, there's no Snow White or Sleeping Beauty shit happening here. She spends time with her princes and gets to know them. It's still not perfect, but like there's a relationship growing there in every movie that I've seen so far. So, take what you can get.
It's like
happy
she
for
met
them.
somebody at a carnival, though, and fell in love with them
Yeah.
before he took his hat off.
But it's
his
like
soul
any
and his
Hollywood
spirit.
movie where they
Oh,
go on an adventure together
of
and then
course.
they're in love at the end of it. Like, at least we get to see a relationship grow. We don't just meet them one time for 2 minutes and then wake up to see them and then you get married to them. Like, there's
Yeah.
none of that. It's like they spend some time together. So I'm really happy for that. And so because of that, Clara's like, well, duh, I'm going to stay here in this fucking magical land where everybody loves me and I'm a fucking Sugarplum princess and I can marry the prince and I can rule with kindness and, like, whatever.
I remember 20 minutes ago she was preparing for a life in doll's clothes.
Yeah. So it's, you know, a good, happy twist. And, you know, you're cool with it as the audience. You're like, you know what, Barbie, fucking stay there. Like, you're right, it seems made. Like, this is great. There's no bratty brother. There's no smog. You probably don't have to go up a chimney. Like, you'll be fine. Stay here. But, of course, she can't stay here because we've got to get the kick. We've got to go back to the first dream level. And so I think it's really lovely how Tim Curry comes out of the drain on the back of the bat and ignites the locket, as it were. Like, for some reason he knows that that's a thing, and he, like, pulls the locket off, which activates its power, and she's forced to go back to reality, which I think is really great because it takes the choice out of her hands. So as an audience member, it's quite bittersweet because you're like, oh my god, maybe Barbie's not gonna fucking get married at the end of her very first movie. Like, this is insane, and it's just gonna have been some fun little Inception adventure that's possibly a dream. Yeah, really fun. Of course, this is Barbie's first movie, so that doesn't happen, but for now, she's gone back to reality and woken up, and she can't quite tell whether it's happened or not. And it's a really great ending for the villain as well, to genuinely end on doing something triumphantly villainous. So I really liked it. I think he falls off the bat or something. You know, they have to give him one last, like, thing where it's like, no, don't do this.
Yeah, he's knocked out by a snowball, isn't he? Because that's a thing.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
I've forgotten about the snowballs. Yes. But
yeah, I thought it was really fun. And I hope, I was like, and then the movie was like, no.
We've got more for you, because if this level of Inception, just remember, Barbie is a doll who is also teaching a lesson to her little sister.
Wait, no, before then.
No, I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. Who's then in a Victorian world, also within some magical world. So we've got the 4 layers.
Yeah.
Now, remember that Aunt Elizabeth bought the Nutcracker doll? She does one better Christmas morning, and she brings a whole fucking live, living man, mysteriously called Eric, who looks just like the Nutcracker, but not with his head on, who is just wandering around outside, who she forces to have Christmas dinner with them. And to be honest,
so
Grandfather
weird.
Doppelmayr, whatever his name is, I'm with him. I wouldn't come fucking
like,
bloke.
What the fuck?
You know, this is Victorian times.
Elizabeth.
It's only recently we've had the garages open Christmas morning here, where you can buy batteries. You're not going to feed another face with no preparation.
With no fucking heads
And to me, Aunt Elizabeth has set this up. Aunt Elizabeth has had him outside all night saying, don't you worry, I've given her a little wooden doll of you, and I've fed her some psychotropics. She'll be so into you when you turn up.
It's really creepy when you think of it like that, because how does it make sense otherwise? If it's not Aunt Elizabeth doing some batshit crazy stuff with some drugs, it means that it's like when you come back from a dream and you're like, Dogma has the best one, when she wakes up and she thinks her interaction with Alan Rickman at the restaurant was all a dream, and then there's some maracas under her pillow. And it's like, oh, it did really happen, because there's always something left over from the night before that they find. The tooth in Home Alone, like all of these things. This is a real live human person who doesn't belong in this world. It reminded me of the Flight of Dragons, where the woman who's lived in this fantasy realm her whole life, spoilers for the Flight of Dragons, agrees to go back with the bloke to like modern day America. And she's like, I want to live with you forever, Peter. And it's like, do you? Because do you understand what traffic is? Do you know that magic doesn't exist and that you're going to have to like wash your own clothes or whatever? And like the woman in The Last Starfighter who agrees to go to fucking space. And I'm like, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Like, this is a huge commitment. Like, you've not been going out that long. And it's the same here. It's like, Eric, honey.
You're still in the honeymoon period of your relationship.
Everyone was waiting for you to return to rule them. Who have you left in charge of the country?
And Marzipan's still stuck on that island. I'm really worried about Marzipan. Yeah, there's some weird old shit going on here. That if you unpack
Think about for more than 2 seconds.
And I really don't want this podcast to be about ripping the shit out of these films.
No,
but
same.
I think this film has...
It's very strange.
It has so many ideas and things are going on in it.
Yeah.
That I think it does drop the ball a bit. And
yeah.
You know,
it was its first venture. Like, I think they weren't really sure what they were trying to do. They just knew they wanted to get as many characters in as possible so they could sell as many toys as possible. And, you know, I think that's fine. But in terms of story, they weren't quite sure what they were going to do.
No.
It's a ballet. There's not really so much as a story as I think they go to the Sugarplum Fairy's palace and she's like, look at all my friends. They're going to dance for you in their, like, native dances or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's nice. Thank you, Sugarplum Fairy. And then she's like, well, this has been fun. Have a good Christmas. And, like, she goes back to normal world or whatever. So there's not really much of a plot in the original one anyway.
No.
So they've had to try to construct something here. It feels very sort of like second draft. Someone was like, ugh, that'll do. It's only Barbie.
Obviously, if you remember our last episode, I did complain that Barbie and the Rockers and the Sensations lacked threat.
Yes.
There's a little more threat here. I think the Mouse King...
There's a lot more threat here.
I mean, the quest is pointless. You know, they go on a long quest to get nowhere and stuff like that. But there is... And Barbie sort of acquiesces to all her fates very quickly. I'm going to spend the rest of my life as a child, as a doll-sized creature. I'm going to marry this man and live in a fantasy world for the rest of my life. I'm going to hook up with this guy my aunt's brought round for Christmas dinner. You know, there's lots of... Yeah, Barbie acquiesces moments in it. But I think there's more... it's definitely better than those. Yeah. Yes, it's not Shrek quality animation. Yes, it's got some weird stuff going down on it. But it's kind of entertaining. It
is entertaining. It's a bit messy. And I think, you know, the animation of the people is nice. Barbie's animated beautifully. The dancing's really lovely. The music's obviously great. I think they did a good job. I think it's a good starting point, and I'm happy that I know for a fact that at least for one more episode it is going to get better from here. And it's really enjoyable anyway. I think if you want to stick it on in the background at Christmas while you're like wrapping presents, I think it'd be a really nice thing to do. And to be honest, it's not even that Christmassy. Like, you don't have to have it on at Christmas.
No. So some of the other films are going to feel very Christmassy, but there is, you know, this is a film which happens. It's like Home Alone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Home Alone, but it's like Home Alone in the sense Home Alone takes place on Christmas Eve, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a movie you only have to watch at Christmas.
I mean, it's a bad example because Home Alone is the Christmas movie.
Yeah, but
I know what you mean. You could take it out of context and be like, it's snowing.
You could watch Gremlins then on a day other than Christmas Eve. Although, interestingly, Gremlins was released at the cinema in June or July. So was never a Christmas movie in any sense of the word, but there we go. This is not as good as Gremlins or Home Alone. But you know, and remember the audience, remember its purpose. Its purpose was to entice the parents or 5 to 8-year-old girls into buying a bunch of expensive toys, just like they've been
Hell
able to get
yeah.
the boys to do. Yeah, the boys have
Yeah.
had this for a long time, play
For
sets
all
and
of the 80s was aimed at boys with the toy marketing and the TV shows and stuff. So it's
He-Man and
about time.
Transformers and
Yeah.
things like that. And
Thundercats
yeah,
and
Mask and things like that. All these things, the 70s and the
G.I.
80s.
Joe and
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
it's about bloody time we got one.
yeah, although they're very expensive. Um,
Very
and just
expensive.
to what I saw on eBay, you can buy Prince Eric, which in tradition of toys, um, does spoil the story.
Yeah.
If you were to get the toy before seeing the film, Eric being the Nutcracker is no surprise because he's basically a Ken doll with a Nutcracker head to stick on him,
With a big old scary
like a
Nutcracker head.
Mardi Gras thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit fucking scary.
It's
But
very frightening.
but don't worry, they did this in the Kong versus Godzilla film. The toys gave away Mechagodzilla before
Oh, for God's
months
sake.
months before the film came out. So this is always a thing that
It's classic.
the toys give it away. But I don't think anyone was, other than yourself, was really going to be worried about it. And I don't think the audience has the capacity to, the intended audience isn't going. It's not. Remember, this is before the internet, really.
Yeah, this
There's
is
got to
true.
be a lot of people at Barbie.com going, "Oh, do you see it, Prince Eric?" But it's
Yeah.
fine, and it's well-made fineness, and there are plenty of things that are on the TV at that time which aren't as well-made as this. And
Yeah, and in terms of characterization, like I said it earlier, but Clara really is a great character. Like she really is. Like, we were getting 90s feminism from our Disney princesses for 10 years, getting slightly better, culminating with like Mulan and Jane. And then we're moving into 2001 where we've now got Hermione Granger in live action children entertainment. We've got so Barbie really had her competition set out for her, and I think they knew that, and I think they knew that Barbie needed to be like a Renaissance woman, if you will, in terms of like feminism and role modelness. Like she needed to be book smart, but she also needed to be action heavy, but still feminine. Like Elle Woods was really the sort of icon of that era, like smart and pretty, pink and perfect, but like brainy and confident. And I think she's all of those things, and that's really cool.
yeah. So how many Barbies out of 5 would you give this one then?
I will give this one 3.5 Barbies, just because I want to leave room to improve, because I think it is a little bit messy and a little bit bland in places. But of course, you've got Tim Curry, which instantly gives you,
Well, that gives you 1.5
so
stars
much.
by default, and it's
Just
not. It's
by default.
and quite often in these things, that the Tim Curry role would be a scene-stealing 5 minutes. He's pretty much
Yeah.
involved for an hour of the
Throughout.
film.
Which
So
is great.
it is, and I think he adds something to say. I'm with you. I think in the context of these films and thinking about the ones that I think are going to be of the best, I think this is slightly above par. A
Yeah.
great laugh to talk about. 3.5 sounds about right.
Yeah. So good, solid movie. Terrible adaptation of the Nutcracker story, but hey, great movie.
Yeah, kids. Now, after this, go and look up the real story and have your own issues with that as well.
yeah.
Also, I suggest you
do
read up
that.
about British colonialism in India and
While we're here.
and what
The
happens to
Empire.
horses if you leave them to die. But yeah, no, it's a good start, and it's light years ahead of the Rockers and the Sensations.
Yeah, definitely. So, the Barbie leaderboard. Out of 35 plus movies, we're going to put them in some sort of order. We only have 2 at the moment. But to be honest, I think the Nutcracker is going to be pretty high up.
I mean, yeah, the Nutcracker's going to end up quite high up. I think it's pretty clear it's better than the Rockers and the Sensations. So
Yeah.
I guess at the moment I'm going to make it my number one Barbie movie that I've watched so far.
That's fair. So does that put Barbie and the Rockers at number 2?
I think it does. I suspect it puts Barbie. No, actually, I don't know. I was going to say it puts it about number 35, but there's about 20 of them I have no idea about, and we may find that Barbie and the Rockers, Barbie and the Sensations ends up being, the mid-level excellence.
Yeah. So coming in at number 2, a solid silver for Barbie and the Rockers from Out of This World, with Barbie in the Nutcracker. She's in the Nutcracker at number 1.
So that was a good chat, Emily. Where else can people get in touch with us?
Well, In A Barbie World is obviously found on the Why This Film platform, which is across all podcasting platforms.
Double platform, always good. And are we on Facebook?
We are on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast.
Are we on Instagram?
We're on Instagram at Why This Film Podcast.
And how about the Twitter?
We are on the Twitter at Why This Film Pod.
Any other way they can support the show?
Yeah, if you'd like to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/Why This Film Podcast and support us from as little as £3 a month.
Woohoo! And if you're really old-fashioned like me, you can get your Barbie opinions over to us on email at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com.